Alright, the current Chapter 9, current losses, balance, betting, strategy, profits while winning or losing. The real dicey part about playing the game is knowing how much to bet in any given situation, understanding what happens with the score, with the counting, with the understanding, with the consecutive loss sequence, probability, with keeping your eye on the session, mulling as all plays and factors, and staying a winner. Then you apply some of the knowledge gained with the probability of the winning and losing consecutive hand. Chapter 6 develops some of the feasible betting strategies around the Chapter 1, explaining how to use the current loss balance betting method to use safe and even losing situation. But first, I want to preface with a little background theory. Negative progression. Let me spend some of the time about negative progression, generally frowned upon by most professional gambling community because of the possibility of risk of ruin. Just as so. The primary method is compared to that martingale system that tells you the double each of the time you lose because you eventually win, loss, or sequence, but you will always win your money back plus your original. But, now let's see what happens when you say 10 times in a row saying, let's say $5. Look at the following figures you see the standard martingale side compared to the current loss balancing. So you have odds of winning one, doubling the old double up martingale, and the current loss betting strategy. Current loss balance. Current loss balance shows 10 times $5 after 10. Alright, so what do we hear? 10 losses in a row. Well, we'll make it the same point with another martingale system. Means you've spent at least $5,115 from starting a $5 bet but you haven't won yet. Here's the kicker. Let's assume that you win a bet number 11, $51,500, $51,120 from, which is double. Recover all your losses. By doing so, you have wagered sum of the total of $10,235 to win $5. Now, would any of the one in his right mind do that? I don't think so. Trust me when I tell you that you'll be on your knees when doing something serious, knocking starting around 7th and 8th loss, and behind the risk versus reward ratios on that about 2,047 to 1. Current loss betting balance method, which yields at 126 to 1. Let me tell you how this method works. Current loss balancing method. Current loss balancing betting scheme incorporates probability assessing winning loss sequences along with sensible loss recovery strategy that enable the player to suffer 10, 15, even 20 more losses a row while keeping betting safe the same, recovering inevitably with a reasonable time frame. Does it sound to be good, too true? Well, lucky for you, it's not. The problem with negative with the progression scheme, while martingale system is the bets get high, and they wipe out your own session's money, and you're possibly even the bankroll in a matter of minutes with no potential recovery, especially when you experience extended groups of successful losses. I'm happy to report and trying to solve this issue. I have it in forefront of my analysis for many years, and now I'm comfortable with sharing the concept that I'm tired of betting strategy for the main ingredient of current loss balance recovery when losses exceed 4 to 5 in a row in the zone. The zone is the area where you can expect over 81.25% of the wins and losses sequences occur. The remainder is 18.75% with the taking of the care of the extended wins of the win column in the loss column. The objective is to build a strategy that allows you to do the following. Systematically step up and regress lower your bets while winning. Step up your bets while losing in a very limited way. Look for a recovery win to incorporate a profit for the investment. Limits for the possible loss sequence for up to 4 to 5 losses in a row you decide. Step all the way down to the base unit until a win occurs. Then this becomes the trigger bet. You think of the percentage of the clearance loss betting. Let's say 40% of the make the next year bet. If you win a curve of the next bet, you recover 40% of all the losses to the losses point. Recovering the balance should take only a matter of 4 to 20 hands on the average. Depending on the deck configuration and the betting scheme, you either decide to utilize the balance for the action, play, stay, and within the while. In the zone. Even the action doesn't stay within the zone, you still recover, and it will just take a few more hands to get back in where you started before your loss sequence occurred. If the clearance losing bet then betting sure the base unit you wins again occurs. Then you begin the second clearance losing bet. Fuck. Current loss balance. Alright, you take the percentage of the current loss balance for the, let's say, 40%, make the next bet with the winning curve of the next bet. You've recovered 40% of the losses of the point recovering the balance. You should take only a matter of 4 to 20 hands on the average, depending on the deck configuration, betting of the scheme of the decided you level the balance of the action, play stay within the zone. Even as action does not stay within the zone, it will still recover. You just take a few more hands to get back to where you started before loss have occurred. If your loss of your clearance losing bet, then betting resumes the base unit of the win again occurs. This will begin with a second clearance losing bet sequence, which covers your initial losses and your first clearance losing bet loss. Either way, eventually get to 2 wins in a row. The current losing bet loss. Either way, you will eventually get back to 2 wins in a row, enabling the recovery and the clearance losing bet. Be only the road to recovery and back in the action on the plus side. Figure 9.2 illustrates the possible scenarios going through the fourth losing bet within the zone, in the zone, counting the one loss from within the column of the read loss column, then reducing the bet units for the clearance losing bet strategy 2, then making your initial clearance losing bet. This is one many scenarios you'll encounter. Able to discover the different methods beyond the next example. The important of being examined of the strategy, discover the various parameters that might be changed with the sample, the result of the model of the 160 hands played. See figure 9.5 will be using the standard of the comparative cross-reference against the other strategies that will be discussed. Alright, shows the clearance losing bet strategy model, which I'm going to put in a book in another day. As illustrated in figure 9.2, the code of the bets of the W1 and L2 are initial bets. For along with the figure 9.2, it is described how the betting goes. For example, if you play with the initial bet W1 winning, your next bet would be W2. If you win that, then the next bet would be W3, and so on. If you reach the bet W4 and win, then the next would be back to W3. If the win, you advance the bet to win bet W4 and keep going back and forth until you experience a loss. If at any of the point of the win sequence you experience a loss, if the next bet would be to lose L2. In this case, let's say you would lose bet W4 at $8 and then bet L2 and $10 and win. You would recover $8 loss on the bet with a W4 and profit of $2. Now let's say the loss of the L2 proceeds to L3, $22, and you win. You would recover wages W4 8 would loss plus L2 10 and loss profit 4. If you get loss L4 bet and win, you would again recover all subsequent losses profit 6. If you lose on L4 of the bet, you would now exist on the zone, now exit the zone, and go to clearance losing bet stage 2, the protection mode. Betting on your own base unit, limiting your possibility to continue downside losses. The goal here is to be able to suffer numerous losses from this point on, 1, 3, 4, 6, possible more, and still able to recover a reasonable amount of money. When one loss 4 has lost, you're betting in the base unit until the experience of win. Continued losses are no problem because you're losing only the minimum bet. Once a win occurs, this is your trigger bet. You immediately go to the clearance. Once you win occurs, this is your trigger bet. You immediately go to the clearance losing bet mode. You assess how much you have lost and taking a percentage of loss to determine your next bet amount. Whether let's assume the example that you lost for W4 bet $80. Which sends you to the loss column of the L2, the bet $10, in which you also lose. Then use loss L3 of $22 and loss L4 of $46 with a grand total of $86.05 losing bet. Yes, the betting scenario is pretty aggressive, but you needn't worry because you'll learn many other strategies coming up that may suit you in understanding how to construct a strategy that best suits your bankroll, gaming acumen, and nervous tension threshold. Let's move on to L5. Bet L5. Bet only $5. You say for this example you lost another 2 bets at $5, then experience a win of $5. The win of 5 cancels one of 2 $5 out losses. Now not only total of 91, then when sends only you to bet W5, again you will trigger bet, and let's say you predominantly have the recovering stage rate of 40%, but therefore 40% of the $91 is about 36% or 40 clearance losing bet. If you win this bet, the probability table states you the most likely will. You are only at the negative $55 situation, making possibilities fully recovers you small series of bets away. Upon winning, you're immediately. However, let's say you upon winning, they immediately go back to the W2 to the start of the sequence all over again. However, unless you lost your initial recovery bet of $36, now what? You go back to L6 and keep betting $5 until you the experience of the win, and again sends you on the over the winning column. Let's say W6 and another $40 clearance 40Q clearance losing bet. The 40 meaning percentage of the clearance losing bet. You now try the process against and hoping for the two in a row. It's important to know that the deficiency is not fully recovering along with the given this year, but the picked up over the successful wins you've experienced with the win column W1 through 1-4. In addition, repeated recoveries while profiting loss of the columns L1 through L4, making your double downs and splits, not to mention many of the 21s in your blackjack along the way, while working on the L2 through L4 bets. Any point when you win while making W5 bets, thus recovering the winning, you're immediately going to the W2 bet, beginning the sequence all over again as indicated in Figure 9.2. Please take note that with progressive W6 and W7, the clearance of the losing bet wins can proceed to W8 instead of winning over the W2 bet, beginning of the new stage of the escalated betting. This variation is totally at your option. The betting scheme is formalized in Figure 9.2, also dedicated. Indicates percentage of the either player or the dealer getting out of this win losses successfully. Also articulates whether the doubling and splitting is not recommended in certain betting level. This key is consistent. Winning is you currently do not need to expose yourself to an even bigger loss for the doubling L4, even if the $40 clearance losing bet was not required. It's also important to note that while the variation may seem expensive, the design is even at $5 betting level. It works even if you don't exactly same scheme, as long as you build the recovery component on it. The strategy is 9-2. This is typical something you might use when working in a short term 3 out of 5 bets. Figure 9-3, 1%. More conservative model for those of you that get a little squeamish going on to the L4 bet, even if there is one of them appears too aggressive. Even more example, the variations coming up. Figure 9-3, the model will again to the L4 losing bet before we revert to the $5 clearance losing bet, stage 2 protection bets, where beginning clearance losing bet sequence variables in the scheme are flexible and you change the parameters to suit with your bet comfort level. I suggest that you don't exceed the $40% clearance losing bet factor. The bets will begin to enter a not so comfortable zone because they tend to be pretty high after the second clearance losing bet attempt. You actually find that they can use the 30% clearance losing bet as a recovering factor, and also almost paces every 40th time frame of the total and complete loss recovery, and that's not bad. As the next figure, we go to the losing L4 losing bet before we exist on the clearance losing betting arena. The method also works in the design to keep the bets from getting too crazy, making on its own you uncomfortable. Remember, you're playing because you want it to be fun and not grueling fraught with tension. Shows category 2 clearance losing bet zone strategy betting method, and then shows another clearance losing bet scheme diagram modified more and conservative. 60-80 minutes of play. In this section, I'll take you through various winning and losing scenarios, explain what they actually do in the 60 to 80 minutes of the play. While you think winning and loss are resolved with a comparative model with the strategies there will be, presenting you with a apply with analysis of the difference. It's important to know that we did not stop and agree for the bet with the fourth losses. You just kept betting according to the progression unit until we won. Just to prove that it's difficult to be on the 5 or 6 losses in a row. The idea behind the philosophy that you're betting at more than 2 times of the losing bet in its early levels of this one once you do win, you actually win more than original bet once, always recouped with us showing the return over your investment. With these type of the bet, the more you lose, the greater profits the rate realize once you win. Once the win does come, remember that more than 81% of the time the action will stay between the bets W1 and W4 and losing bets and the bets L1 through L4. This is the zone. As I indicated, I do not recommend doubling or splitting hands past the third losing bet of the obvious reason. The idea here is to recoup your losses and make marginal profit upon the winning each lot in the sequence, not walk off a high wire. For those of you who wish to go beyond the parameters, you're taking an above average risk that is not required. See the following figures of what 6 to 8 minutes of the play really looks like. Another important note to remember, the strategy can only be employed with a higher limited table to play. If playing 10 units, if you need to play $500 table to maximum, 15 units you need to play preferably $1,000 table to maximum, and so on. As you see there, about 6 to 8 minutes, 60 to 80 minutes of play should be the direct return of the investment for all of the wagers made. This is an important factor of the track because certainly you want to make your money grow into relation to the amount of the risk work exerted to make it. Remember, you will do better in going head-to-head against the dealer playing with the 1 to 2 hands at the most, and with the receiver the better of the distribution of the cards, having fewer issue with the folks who are getting better cards when you're not. The following of the figures depict with the real happening over the midst of the action of the game. There's 21 we get so caught up in making the bets, and we're playing what we don't really stop and analyze what has won more bets or so with the dealer, who should stop, and consider how much money is relative to the traveling back and forth between you and the casino with the half of the dollars wage per hour. It is also important to note that the amount over the play for the significantly more losing hands, the win ones of the tune of 13% more of which is uncharacteristic, for which would typically lie with the normal distribution of the wins and losses, yet we still carved out a nice and tidy profit for the session. The remainder of all clearance losing bets have been rounded to the closest $5 increment for all betting schemes presented in this chapter. The following figure is export related with about 160 hands and 80 minutes with 1 to 2 hands against the dealers. If it was calculated with 40% clearance losing bet for random results at a minimum of $5 and maximum at a $100 table limited with using figure 9.2. Our goal, of course, to make 18 to 20 units out of $5 before a hand number 160. Watching clearance losing bet column, see that it accumulates the loss balance and betting procedures. Let's see what happens in figure 9.5 and 9.6. 9.5 show the random run of the 160 results of 5 bet units in model 1. Show the hand number initial and the bet code, the bet amount, result, game loss, and running balance, and clearance losing back accrual. This shows a whole 180 hands. 168 hands. Alright, and that gives you the session statistics. Fund the clearance losing bets with the code within the man with the winning of the clearance losing bet 1, meaning with the clearance losing bet occurred with the bet code for W5. Clearance losing bet level was computed. Now I realize that we haven't discussed the various of the clearance losing bet level yet, but the topic is coming in the chapter 10. Okay, so if you do not hear when this running of the 160 bets or hand, let's take some of the most statistics. As you resume the review of the result of the figure 9.5, you can see that they experienced a few consecutive losses before achieving the first win, which happened to the chart is the greater example of which would happen in the minute of the first jump in. The statistic indicates we would lose more than we win. Still, we were able to win $180 even in semi-aggressive 40% clearance losing bet model, where we would make losing L4 $46 bet. Remember, the starting point with the 0 figure 9.5 reflects the fact which you have the $200 recommended buy-in in front of you. Therefore, in running balance column, for example, in one hand of $160 will have profit of $180, now having a total of $380 in front of you, which is the buy-in plus the profit. The big story of the week of the over goal is 18 units and 37 hands. A rate of the 2 hands per minute, which must be standard, is way to below average rate with the dealt cards going head-to-head against the dealer with achieve the over goal with about 22 minutes. Normally, we now safeguard to win, walking away with declaring the session is over. However, here we will stay and see what happens with the 8 minutes of the play with the formulated analysis of the cave with equivalent rate with approximately $100 per hour. Definitely will above our normal average. Important note as well that it doubles and splits have not been factored in. If you're casual, counting with the cards should have hit at least about 45 to 65% average making those hands, as well as which could even be the final outcome and a little better. More about the casual counting in Chapter 12. Now let's examine the encountered our first 40% clearance losing bet and how to experience in the 160 hands. Okay, we get hand of sixes. See our first occurrence. A successful loss with the trigger line stage of the 2 clearance losing bet area that both the start of the loss sequence running balance and the deposit of the $147 that would begin a losing sequence of that would sum of the total of $78. But we hit original then we hit our original 40% clearance losing bet of $30 at the beginning our road back to recovery. At 80 we were now recovering the balance for the 144, totally recovered it at hand 117. This began with the process of winning, gaining profit again. Lots of it, in fact, with the life of the game, and they will happen to be you, with no doubt. However, the dramatically will occur and trail with the opportunity of the event with happening by forcing ourselves to step out of the game in the 18 with the 21-22 goal is achieved. In particular, Mal going into the stage 2 that the terrier occurred only once, which was a little under the average. Additional, the following analysis will assist with providing insight with the various betting options within the terrier level that you can specifically design a company at the level to play with that you are comfortable being at. For example, you may decide with the absolute terminating zone between betting L4 and never going to clearance level betting mode at this because of the losing that much is serious gets you to the nervous seriously. Okay, but the game should be enjoyable, comfortable. Be sure that you will win the money, and you realize that the more aggressive you are, the quicker the results. It's important to know that you should never bet the unit side that make you uncomfortable. This key is there are times when you must make some of the adjustments from the amount of the betting position of you're playing. If you bet the unit with the too high, if you will gradually really uncomfortable betting in this kind of the hand for the most casinos require you to double the table, the minimum display. Unless you're betting 5 units and want to play 2 hands, you now have the bet of $10 per position, $20 time each time. You make extremely uncomfortable if you decide to do this, and in some cases they may have to. Then remember, your session money has to be modeled for the kind of betting as well. If you determine to bet 2 positions, I can emphasize that enough of the need of the bankroll to sustain the effort, and not to mention that now you have to separately track the 2 hands independently, which can be difficulty in the establish a system for doing so. Easy way to get around having the doubling of the unit size of the playing with the 2 positions is having a friend in place with bets for you in second position under your direction. As far as the casino is concerned, there are 2 people playing and the 2 position technical requirement has been satisfied. Alright, besides the initial losses, several of the other important factors could be seen in the bottom figure of 9.6 without you making bets similar to making investments. Everyone wants to return on the investment, right? Well, each time you take a bet, whether you are investing in possible positive outcome, granted this is most risky investment you can make, but figure 9.6 indicates after all of the bets, investments, wagers have been made with a tune of $401, we are still able to show the return of investment of the $92. 22.94% hand on 37, and the optimal consideration they were losing hand to the winning ones for the tune of 13% or more, which very uncharacteristic of what outcome usually is. Generally, outcome should be a little closer to 51 hands won by the house versus 39 in favor in the player, with the not covering factoring in the push hands, in which using 8% to 12% of all the hands played. Additional overall increased cash for 90% overall initial session buying money. Over 160 hands played. Needless to say, this strategy does work. We were able to withstand reasonable loss and long losses, recover the first 2 hands played within or in about 30 minutes. Keeping track of your current current clearance level betting. Another issue that we're wondering about is how to keep the running of the clearance level of betting. Well, it's pretty easily. Actually, when we buy the table, they ask at 30% and $30 about $1 white chips. When you begin a loss sequence, place 1 white chip off the stack. It's on its own stack. For every $5, begin another stack, and for every $10 for all the dollar units. For example, if you lose $8 bet, you would place 1 chip in the railing over the table. This represents with 1 unit of $5. 3 chips stacked together right next to this represent $3 extras to make 8. Each time you lose a bet, you stack these chips on top of one another. If you lose $24 bet, you would place 4 white chips on $5 stacks of 4 white chips on $1 stack, and thus so on. Thus, when we have to make a clearance losing bet, you would merely look back at both stacks and you have an accurately tally of the aggregated sum total of the sequence loss and can make the percentage bet accurately. Modifying creating your own bet strategy. As indicated with the introduction of the book, may intend with the anticipating analyzing some of the important facts of the bet of this game. Usually most folks that do not pay attention, you just have the analyze one of the really big ones. Now that having this information enables you to modify to create your own betting strategy that you can be comfortable with, clearance level of betting method, appeal to you that make the model that fits your playing acumen. There are some samples of this strategy upcoming in later chapters that all their places, because sometimes that you want to swatch different strategies any one session depending on which of the cards are doing the again suits your betting comfort level. But three great things in strategy works as what I said earlier. Most of the action occurring in the zone is validated. It looks like with the outcome, and you quickly see 80% of the action stays between the bets with W1 and W4 on the winning side, and bets L through L4 on the losing side. Modifying the bets on the level the suit you need the total up to. Totally up to you, but look at the figure 9-6. You can see the accomplishment of the goal that we sought. Loss recovery, win 18 to 20 units in an acceptable time frame. At this point, you might think you're about more conservatively strategy. I don't have the high win with losing, even the current clearance losing bet strategy, even the streamlining of the betting and the stem of the shortening of the zone. This does not actually probably where the real zone actually rather allows you to extend the short and losing sequences, but either tweaking 1% of the clearance level of the betting, and the 2, the amount of the bets made before going to stage 2 or 3, the size of the bets while in the zone, and looking at the strategy may seem the realistic some of you the clearance losing bet strategy shown figure 9.3 lets you see what kind of impact lowering bets while staying in the zone has overall picture well outlined. Same 160 hand run once more and showed associated statistics. Figure 97, a random run of 160 resolve of the 5-bet unit of Model 2. After looking at the figures, we immediately see with the lower betting the definitely lower of the potential of the greater proof that we reach out with a goal of the 18 to 20 units and handed to 127, which almost over at our 80-minute marker. The most money won in the hand is 134 with a total of $98. So what we can conclude from this, the problem is with the bet, L2 certainly does not cover the loss experience of the win column with either $5 or $8 level, but bet L3 does not cover the loss for the winning column in the L2 bet. When L2 bet is $8 additional, the loss if it goes to L4 with the L4 bets covers only the L3 and L2 bets. Does not cover the loss experience with the win of the combination of the entire loss sequence of the betting. Plays continually defective in the situation, looking at the additional wins and splitting the double down on the blackjacks to make up the difference. When summarize that when we lower the betting parameters, we can adjust the unit goal with like to achieve the possibility lower with 40%, 50%, so that instead of seeking 18 to 21 or 18 to 20 unit goal, we go for a 9 to 10 unit goal. In the following figure, we can exactly what happens under the same condition chain with their goal when we display with the entire run, we chain with the goal parameter. The important thing to understand that through this and all this other representative, that you can clearly see why the serving a unit goal is practical because it makes a winner every time. As we can see in figure 9.9, is also predictable what will happen. There are some things in figure 9.9 that correlate well with what we have with the analyzing with it is they have little fewer profit dollars at the end with the series because of it's less risk involved with the correlation we'll have with the discussion you have with the very readily apparent with the analysis with the clearance losing bet factor or change. Ultimately, when going to introduce percentage of clearance losing betting mode, it does make sense that making smaller percentage recovery bets something has to give way either with the total amount achieved at the end of the 160 hands will be lower at the time required with the number of hands that needed to be played needed extending the reach for the higher goal. It's just as simple as the rule that the longer you stay at the table, the greater the opportunity to get around out by the casino. The definitely reality you must be careful to weigh with the factors by asking yourself the question, do I want to hang out with just play for some of the cards that he needs for a few hours? Do I want to get in and get some quick profit? Only you can answer those questions. increasing the clearance level of betting factor of the percentage of the recovery. I'm sure at the point most of them wondering what would happen with the increase of the percentage rate of the recovery of the clearance level of betting factor of the right with the have the end of the curiosity with the obviously before we get started with the coupling of the thing with the recovery depth for the higher of the output module and the same and therefore the end of the profit will be higher. But what else? How about what we might possibly reach our goal sooner? Statistic figure 910 generated with the strategy shown with the figure 92 cranking up the clearance level of the batting factor to 60%. Nothing else was changed. Running with the comparison between the statistic figure 96 with the original run, this one figure for the 910 with the result of the pretty interesting. We reset our goal for the 18 to 20 units. As you can see, we again meet our goal at hand at 37th edition with our end searing of the balance of the greater. We want $180, $240 overall return of investment higher as well, with a big bonus for the total recovery of the over the clearance level of the belly. Betting at hand at 78, which is only 17 hands from the wear of the loss sequence initiated. Although the highest bet one was $46 and $56 nominal. So we perform only one last comparison, figure 911, evaluating current level of betting from 60% to 80% U for the same comparison with the figure 92. As you can see, the highest bet now goes from $55 to $75, almost $30 from the original $46. Our ending series total with the bet went from $245 to $280, again increasing our overall return of investment from 11.48% to 13.63%. Definitely not worth an additional risk, in my opinion. Extending the zone to one or more winning-losing bets. Often asked by some of the similar seminar students, why don't I extend the zone with one or more bets? But definitely I quite a do with it, but there are many jaw and tie that were in system. You have to make adjustments to your session money and overall with the bankroll, moving them up a bit and withstanding higher betting limit. Additionally, you're going to need to limit the nerve to go, make it go in figure 912 with the extent of the zone of the model 1, which now morphs into module 3, to which might look like. You can readily see figure 912 of the bet with the L5 loser, L4, L plus L3, L2 have no profit that doesn't cover any loss for the win column, and the win again initiates any loss sequence, which can adjust the type of the betting with a scenario you'd like. The idea behind going one or more, extending with a zone to prevent need to go in the clearance level of betting and the mode betting. Take a look at the figures 913 and 914. We'll see what happens with the same result of the run of the previous model, but this time using the 40 clearance level of betting factor. Show the table and your random runs for 160 hands. Session statistics. We can see from the run of the stretch still reach over the goal about the same time. In fact, with the highest bet made with the goals 78, with the real new with the goals from the set forth with the fewer clearance level of bets was achieved to determine the interior share with the reduced with the recovery bets for the total of the 3 previous round will adjust the one of the analysis downside if the exposed ourselves with the negative clearance level of balance for the $171 on an 87 on a bet at 87. We obviously need more than $200 in session money to recover the next bet. Bets get really high on using this methodology, so beware. Recommend section packets of $350 to $400 to go on 5 losing bet just for backup. A strategy to avoid final analysis may seem that presented too late. In this chapter, actually isn't. They appreciate current level of betting recovery methods. We need to see what 160 hand took and whether we bet only $5 when losing is escalating. Regardless when we are winning, figure 912 shows you what strategy looks like. Figure 916 presents 160 hands, so you can see in action is pretty enlightening. I believe this will convince you that the loss recovery is essential. It's pretty dramatic, isn't it? This is a lot of red ink in the figure 916, even the double down splitting of the special blackjack payoff for the opportunities you won't be able to recover for the ever-increasing deficit. The longer you play with this one, the deeper the hole will dig in yourself. Are there any of the money of the many of the folk that immediately subscribe to the betting and the philosophy that you'll see it and say with the same to play with this way. You can clearly see casinos in all major gambling meccas becoming better and fancier. Love to see the folks come in and use the smith of the figure 917 show for the analyzing statistics for run. Again, the key factor is without it, if you are lost, you will ultimately lose your session, possibly even your stake. Some of the folks with the negative tone call it chasing your money, but it isn't. Chasing your money is what you do when you're using straight martingale method, the clearance level of betting strategy when you're using well-defined set of the rules define and creep to progress your bets based on outcome and currents. Next chapter, we will look at some of the theory of the variants for the employed. Again, it's important to look at these variants with the idea possibility of making changes to fit in your own needs, playing a cunum, overall handout, come out, distribution, wins, losses observed. Chapter 10, Advanced Clearance Level Betting Strategies and Other Variations. Testing.